Welcome in. It is an excited version, live reaction, wild card game 3. Your Chicago Cubs eliminate the San Diego Padres 3-1. The cardiac kids, if you will, do it again because they certainly did not make it easy for those that are faint of heart. Padres threaten in the ninth inning. Kittredge comes in and slams the door. PCA gloves the final out on a can of corn to center field, and the Cubs now advance to take on the Milwaukee Brewers in the NLDS. Game 1 will be Saturday. Mitch Widmeyer, Jason Ross here with you. This is a product of Northside Baseball. It is a live reaction courtesy of the Northside Baseball podcast. Jason, we're going to be on for a little while here tonight.
Hell yeah.
With these instant reactions, live reactions, I always say them when I do them on my own channel. We don't have bullet points planned out like when we do our normal podcast. We're going to be bouncing around a little bit, but we'll try to keep it in shape and in order for those that are tuning in. And we always appreciate anyone who is tuning in. Maybe it's via our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel. Maybe you're listening later via Apple Podcasts or however you get your podcast. We're always appreciative for all the views and all the support. I think, Jason, if you're all right with this, it'd be wrong to start anywhere else besides the start that the Cubs got from Jameson Taillon. 4 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 4 strikeouts. Getting 4 innings of no runs from Taillon, huge in this game, and it kind of set the plate for Craig Counsell to do what he was probably hoping for with the bullpen as he tried to lay it out for those next few innings. What'd you make of the start from Taillon?
Really important. Those are probably the 4 most important innings he's thrown as a Cub in 3 years. Those were fantastic. I think my biggest takeaway from the series is the fact that the Cubs got 4 really big innings from Taillon tonight, while the Padres got 1 from Darvish, 1 in change. He didn't officially get any outs in the second, and 2 that the Cubs were able to use a handful of innings from guys like Colin Ray and Mike Soroka and Taylor Rogers yesterday, as opposed to going to their back end of their bullpen and really exhausting those guys just a little bit more. 7 really important innings that I think when we're ranking like series MVPs, and I think, we'll probably talk about that more in a little bit, but guys like Dansby Swanson are really going to be up there. Pete Crow Armstrong started to turn it around a lot by the end. Nico Horner, guy that we could talk about from those standpoints, but those innings are really important, and we probably don't want to miss them. Taillon looked fantastic. He controlled the lefties with the kick change tonight, threw a lot of strikes. It's always good to throw strikes. Getting the first strike in a bat just changes the entire numbers in your way. The difference between a hitter starts 1-0 versus 0-1 is like the difference between a league average major league hitter and Shohei Ohtani when you look at some of the data out there. So I think at one point he had thrown a first pitch strike like 7 hitters in a row. So awesome innings from Jameson. I thought they were really important. What would you take away from Jamo's start tonight, Mitch?
Yeah, he was really good, and I think it probably helped that I would imagine Craig Counsell and maybe Tommy Hotovy probably told him, or at least he knew going into this, Jason, it's like, dude, if you can just empty the tank for 4 or 5 innings, or empty the tank with what you have. It's not a regular season start where it's like, hey, we just got crushed yesterday, used a lot of arms. We'd love to see you get 6, 7 innings. I think his you'd have to check it because I don't have it pulled up, and I'm sure you do. Like, it seemed like his velocity was in a good spot. It just seemed like Taillon was on top of his game, and I think his mindset probably had a lot to do with that, knowing if I can go out there and give these guys 4 or 5 innings of solid pitching, we're probably in a pretty good spot, and that's exactly what he did. It just seemed like he was in control, and going into a matchup with he against Yu Darvish where you thought, hey, there might be quite a few runs scored on each side, or at least more than what we've seen. Taillon only allowing 2 hits, no walks. That was critical as well. Really limited the damage, and I thought he was brilliant. And then on the other side, like Yu Darvish, good first inning, and then really went through it in the second inning. He didn't even record an out in the second inning, yielding 4 hits, 2 runs before he was yanked. So it was a rough outing for Yu Darvish. And I guess my only reservation early on there, Jason, was in that second inning, the Cubs got 2 runs, but they couldn't quite break it open. And at least myself, those next few innings, I was wondering, like, is that going to come back to get them? Because the Cubs were racking up a lot of hits. They finished the game with 13 hits and just 3 runs. Typically, you can be walking on eggshells a little bit if that's happening. But I thought Taillon was brilliant, and the offense got enough. And then as the game moved along, too, they went to Caleb Thielbar for 2/3 of an inning. And then, again, you can't talk enough about Daniel Palencia if we want to kind of funnel into that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Similar role for him that he saw in game 1 of the series, where he comes in for more than one inning in the middle of the game, and he had to weave out of a little bit of damage, but thankfully for him, none of it was fatal. 1 1/3 innings, 2 hits and a walk, but the big number is 0 runs given up, a goose egg in that column for Daniel Palencia. And I think we both talked about it on the podcast on multiple occasions. I know I've brought it up at least, Jason, and I think you usually concur with it. His energy is like fit for postseason baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that dude is a fiery character. He pitches with passion and energy, and it gets the crowd going. You know, he gets a big strikeout and he's walking off the mound and he's hooting and hollering, and it gets the crowd into it at Wrigley, which they don't necessarily need that extra boost. The crowd seemed like it was spirited from the get-go, but having someone like Palencia come in those middle innings where a lot of people might be, you know, chewing off their fingernails, and you got this guy throwing 100 miles an hour with all the confidence in the world. I know he gave up the 2 hits, the 1 walk, but he didn't give up any runs. I'm completely fine with what I saw from Palencia.
Yeah, you can never expect perfection. Nobody's perfect. We saw Robert Suarez, one of the better relievers in all of baseball. You know, he gave up a home run to Michael Busch. So like, if that's the kind of thing that can happen, if Michael Busch can get a home run off of Robert Suarez, then Daniel Palencia can give up a couple of base runners, and it's not the end of the world. I thought he pitched really well, great energy. I thought his usage throughout the series was in really important middle innings, when you had the top end of a top heavy Padres team. You know, the top 4 or 5 hitters in that lineup is a different kind of beast than the bottom half. And I know that Gavin Sheets was pretty good against right-handed pitching, but you know, when Gavin Sheets is up, you can neutralize him a little bit more with the lefty. And I mean, just the reality is that facing Gavin Sheets doesn't have the same panache as facing Fernando Tatis Jr., even if Tatis was 1 of 12 in the series. So being able to deploy Palencia in the 5th and the 6th inning to keep the games where they were, to keep them at 2-0 at the time, I think was really important. One thing I will say is, as much as I would have liked to have broken it open in the 2nd and make this a little bit easier for us, I think the flip side of that conversation is, if I told you going into this game that the Cubs would have scored 2 runs in the first 2 innings, would have chased Darvish after 1 full inning and a little bit of change, and would have had Jeremiah Estrada already 18 pitches down headed into the 3rd, that's probably about as good of a start as we could have talked about. So, you know, on one hand, you kind of wish they would have done a little bit more, made it a little bit easier to ride that thing out. On the opposite hand, you know, I think going into the game, they got basically the best that they could have out of those first 2 innings in a realistic outcome. I think that kind of put them in the driver's seat pretty early. So while there were a few moments that we were sweating, it's playoff baseball, and that's just what you're going to do. I don't think that it ever got to a really dangerous point in the game. And credit to guys like Jameson Taillon, Daniel Palencia, Caleb Theobar, Brad Keller. I know he gave up the home run. The 9th inning wasn't super clean from him. But his 8th inning, yeah, Pomeranz, another one. I mean, it's kind of crazy that you know, you go into the offseason and you say, you know, basically the Cubs had turned over the last 9 innings to Drew Pomeranz and Brad Keller, and if you would have said those words in March, you would have never believed that the Cubs are about to win a playoff series, and those are the guys that you're happily turning the ball over to. So baseball's weird. Bullpens are super weird when it comes to that. There's just all these weird stories every year with the bullpen doing something like that. So credit to those guys, credit to the bullpen, credit to Craig Counsell for being in a position where the only pitcher that he used on 3 days rest was Andrew Kittredge, where the opposite end, you know, that was not the case for really Schlitt. I know Morone was the only one who went 3 games, but he used a lot of guys back to back. He used Morone, you know, after kind of a season long experience. Robert Suarez definitely probably threw 1 pitch too many. And so you can give some credit to Craig Counsell as kind of a, you know, I know he kind of, in my opinion, blew the Machado at bat last game, but I think he more than made up for it with bullpen usage. So credit to him on that.
Ori says, "Holy cow, let's go." Feel free to drop your comments on the YouTube chat. We'll get them in. Yeah, holy cow is right. And then Tiberius says that 9th inning was Shakespearean. I guess, you know, we're going to hop around, so we might as well talk about the top of the 9th inning, because it got a little dicey there for the Cubs, and Brad Keller finished with 37 pitches, which is I believe they said he went 2 innings in 3 different outings this year, and that was the goal today, or going into tonight, I guess, is for him to get those last 6 outs. He went an inning and a third, gave up the home run, but early on, Brad Keller was nails and then hits a couple batters before that gives up the home run. So you could tell he was starting to maybe run out of steam a little bit, but I thought early on in the outing, Brad Keller was pretty dang good. And then you go to Kittredge for the final 2 outs, and I had said to you, obviously off the air before we went live, I was like, Kittredge is going three in 3 days, isn't he? And it's just kind of the hand that Craig Counsell was dealt with how he laid out the rest of the game, and it worked out in the Cubs' favor. I do know that one thing you probably want to bring up. You said K-Zone sucks, and you and Brock said it yesterday because for those watching, obviously on ESPN, they have the K-Zone box, and it looked like ball 4 to Xander Bogaerts. And then if you unravel it more, it could have been bases loaded, nobody out, but it was first and second, 1 out because Bogaerts was called out looking on strikes before the next 2 batters got plunked. And you said, was it StatCast you said had that as a strike in the zone?
Yeah, StatCast had pitch 5 and pitch 6, both right on the black. Both of them were absolute strikes. K-Zone is just, it is not a very accurate. They just throw a box up. They don't actually, they're not figuring that out for, it's just a box. It's not accurate. I'm between StatCast and ESPN K-Zone. Give me Major League Baseball StatCast because that's what's going to be used with the ABS system next year. You know, they're going to use their own data and their own information, and pitch 5 and pitch 6 were both strikes. And that's, I talked about that yesterday when it looked like PCA was chasing those pitches high in the zone. They weren't. And I've noticed the 2 places that K-Zone really struggles the most on is up and down, because I can't tell you exactly how they make it, but my suspicion is that the K-Zone is not optimized for a player's height and that it is slapped on the screen, right? Because it's not official. They're probably not able to, in every ballpark, recreate immediately a strike zone for each hitter. That's probably not the technology that ESPN has. It's probably the technology Major League Baseball has because they want that technology. So StatCast had both of those pitches as strikes. I know ESPN was throwing a fit about it. I think when we see the umpire scorecard at the end of the game, that will prove that as well. So yeah, I listen. They didn't get hard done on there. Sometimes you can get hard done, and other times you don't. And my also belief is this: if you're a Padre fan out there and you're upset that cost you the game, it didn't. Anytime an umpire makes a decision and throws you a game, they didn't. You had tons of chances in other places to score runs to win those games. And I'll say the same thing when the Cubs get a bad beat as well. You have to take what you can take into control. So, you know, even if you want to go with the K-Zone right there, you want to say that was a bad pitch and Bogaerts earned that walk. That's Major League Baseball. And if you're ever going to put the odds in the hands of an umpire, you kind of deserve your outcome because you should have done it yourself.
Yeah, and we mentioned Keller went on to hit 2 batters. Kittredge comes in, slams the door in the 9th inning. Cubs win 3-1. Live edition, instant reaction. Cubs beat the Padres. Win or go home, do or die, whatever phrase you want to use. 3-1. Wild card game 3. Cubs advance to play the Milwaukee Brewers in the NLDS on Saturday. We'll get to that series a little bit more down the road tonight. We're hanging out with you for a little bit. Feel free to drop your comments in the YouTube chat if you want to. Mitch Whitmire, Jason Ross with you. The lineup, you had 7 of your 9 record a hit. You had 4 multi-hit games. You had 2 with 3 hits, and Michael Busch and Pete Crow Armstrong. Michael Busch, kind of model of consistency for this Cubs lineup at the top of the lineup, but how refreshing was it to see PCA kind of shake free of those first 2 games? And I'm sure there was a lot of weight on his shoulders, you know, mentally going into this one, thinking I need to come through, or at a minimum need to try to get on base here. And PCA comes up with 3 hits for the Cubs and had an RBI single and really got things going in that 2nd inning with that single to center field. What'd you make of the night from PCA?
PCA looked much more composed tonight. He wasn't wildly swinging at pitches. I don't think the teams really kind of attacked him in the exact same way. I do want to kind of point that out. You know, if we look at Pete's at bats, the two places that you can kind of beat Pete is high fastballs and low inside breaking balls, like slider low and in on him. You can really knock him on those. And when you look at his first at bat against Darvish, there was a curveball that wasn't anywhere close to the plate, and then a fastball in the bottom third of the plate. That's a PCA. That's a good PCA zone. If you look at his second at bat against Michael King, they came low and inside on one changeup, but no breaking balls, no sliders. I know Michael King's a fastball changeup guy, but they didn't really attack there. They did go fastball up, but they went fastball up and away. And then where did he single on? A fastball in the lower third of the zone. You don't want to throw fastballs in the lower third of the zone to Pete Armstrong. If you look at his third at bat, what's his third at bat? A bunch of fastballs. Again, up and away generally from him instead of up and in on the hands, up in that upper third. That's where he was really struggling those first couple of games. Those pitches kind of around the hands. And where did he single? It was a little bit more on the outside of the plate, but again, fastball middle third. So you can't throw fastballs in the middle of the lower third to Pete Crow and expect to get away with that. I was surprised that we didn't see the kind of change up or the kind of slider heavy inside pitch, which is like what Dylan C struck him out on that exact pitch yesterday in a full count. Threw an inside awful slider, not even anywhere close to the plate. And Pete rang himself up on it. And so I think, part of that was that Pete was more composed tonight. Pete made the pitches that were mistakes count for mistakes. And I look at the Padres pitching and I also wonder, like, where's the high inside fastballs on Pete Armstrong? Where's the inside breaking balls? They just weren't there. So, I think credit to Pete. Bad plan from the Padres. I don't think that they learned from what was really working in games 1 and games 2 against him, and kind of credit for Pete for making the adjustments and getting the fastballs when they were there. That's all you can do in Major League Baseball is when pitchers present you a mistake, because you kind of have to. When guys are throwing 99 miles an hour, it has to be a mistake if you're really going to get a hit off of it most of the time. And Pete punished them, picked up a couple hits. So good job on Pete there.
Ori says Tyon was Michelangelo out there. Yeah, he was.
Hell yeah.
He was brilliant. 4 innings, no runs for the Cubs. Great way to sort of set the table for Craig Counsell and the rest of the bullpen. Brock says, I just hope both teams had fun. We miss you on the stream tonight, Brock, but we know you got other stuff going on. Thanks for dropping that in. Cubs beat the Padres 3-1, live edition, Northside Baseball Podcast. Mitch and Jason hanging out with you. A couple other names I want to touch base on, if that's all right, Jason, in the lineup. You had said on yesterday's Instant Reaction live show that you liked the approach Kyle Tucker had in his last at-bat in Game 2 when he smacked a single to right field, hoping and perhaps foreshadowing that maybe he could get it going a little bit today. How about 2 for 4 with 2 singles? I believe one was to right and one was to left field as well for Kyle Tucker, who I would say didn't he just look more comfortable today? He just looked more settled in. It looked like Kyle Tucker. Not that he didn't in the first 2 games, but he really, really looked comfortable at the plate today and finished 2 for 4 with a couple of knocks.
Yeah, he looked a lot of comfortable. And I think yesterday was even more than just the last at bat. His first at bat, he had like a high 90s mile an hour line drive to left field where I thought he looked pretty good on that one, going the opposite way with some authority. So I feel pretty good about where Tucker's at right now. You could just see like the timing seemed much more kind of in sync to what you would expect Kyle Tucker to do. He's getting out in front of pitches and pulling them. He's able to go the opposite way. He didn't look like he was behind anything or just like a tick slow. Kind of like Game 1, it just looked like he was a little slow on those things. And today he didn't look slow. So credit to him on those. I think he looked a lot better. Ian Happ looked better at the plate today. 111 mile an hour fastball that he hit as a right-handed hitter. We don't always think of him as particularly as good on the right side as he is the left side, and he really yanked that pitch. So he looked good. As of right now, the only player in the lineup who just doesn't look very settled is Matt Shaw. Yeah, he doesn't look good right now. His glove's too good. You can't sit him. So you're gonna play him, and if in the playoffs he's a glove first guy, you're gonna live with that at this point. Anything that you kind of get from him is going to be a bonus anyways. And you're gonna need the defense moving forward. One of the things Brock had mentioned yesterday was he thought that BABIP was going to play a big role in things, and I figured that that's where you were going to go next. So I'm going to beat you to the punch.
Go ahead. Yep,
beat you to the punch on this data. Because this is I think the story of the game, and I think the story of the series is tonight. The Padres had an expected batting average of 272. The Cubs had an expected batting average of 285. I'm going to tell you, but here's the thing. The Cubs had 13 hits and the Padres had 7. And so on one hand, you could say maybe the Cubs had better variance, maybe they had good luck. But one of the ways that you create your own variance is the Cubs had the 4th best OAA in baseball, and the Padres were a -7 and were 18th best in baseball. Defense matters, especially in close games, because you've got Dansby Swanson taking away hits. You've got Nico Horner taking away hits. And who do the Padres have at second base? They have Luis Ariz, who's just not a very good defensive player. And Xander Bogaerts is a fine defensive player, but I don't think that you're probably going to realistically take him over Dansby Swanson at shortstop. And Pete Crow Armstrong's making plays in center field. So Brock was right. BABIP mattered today. And I think in conjunction with that, I think what really mattered and what you saw was the Cubs created variance by taking away hits from the Padres, but the Padres defense not being able to do what the Cubs defense did. So credit to those guys, Dansby Swanson, Nico Horner, Pete Crow Armstrong. They made it happen on the with the bat, but they also made it with the glove. And I think that was a real big story that we probably a team effort, not just Dansby Swanson, to play that variance game.
Yeah, and you brought up Matt Shaw's glove, and you just talked about Dansby with his glove. I feel very confident saying the Padres score more than one run this game, if not for the defensive brilliance of Dansby Swanson, because it wasn't just 1 or 2 plays. He made multiple pretty spectacular plays with the glove. And the one I wanted to point out, Jason, and I'm not trying to cherry pick at all because Luis Ariz is a very fine baseball player, but there was the line drive to Swanson where Ariz clearly thought it was going to be caught. It went off of Swanson's glove. And as that play is unraveling, the ball hits the grass. Dansby has to get his surroundings. He picks the ball up. And right as he's releasing it to first, my thought is like, there's no way they have a shot here. And then the throw beats Ariz by like 2.5, 3 steps. And I'm like, what happened? And then when you see the replay, Ariz thought it was going to be caught. So he kind of just started turning towards the dugout. And I was thinking, like, if a Cubs player did that in this game, in an elimination game, I'd be going nuts. I would be going insane. And again, I'm not trying to rip on Ariz. He's a very fine baseball player, but this is do or die. This is win or go home. Run it out. Like, I know your instincts tell you, like, oh, it's going to be caught. And then, like, naturally you just want to stop, but start turning towards the dugout. I mean, he would have been safe if he just ran that out.
Yep.
Even at his speed. He's not a burner, but he didn't need to be a burner on that play, and he would have beat it out. And instead, Dansby makes the play at first. And that was another one where it was just good play by Dansby, sticking with it. And on the other side, I'm sure there were a lot of Padres fans wondering, like, how the hell did Ariz not beat that out at first?
Yeah, and like that kind of goes back to you create your own variance on those plays. Luis Ariz created his own variance, as did Dansby Swanson. Swanson stuck with that play and came up firing, and Luis Ariz acted like he was out right away. And you're never going to find me as the, you got to run hustle kind of guy. Like, you got to run out every ground ball like it's high school. Like, I don't kind of subscribe to that. However, in the playoffs, you can't turn around and you see that ball go in the glove because Ariz should have been on first base. And that's where that goes. So, if I see Kyle Tucker not necessarily running out a pop up to the pitcher, especially with kind of a bum calf, I'm not going to be the guy who's going to scream at him right now. Conversely, I would understand the frustration on not going a little bit there on Ariz. He probably should have had run that, or at least made more of an effort to continue on to first base. So that's how you create your own variance, right? Swanson kept going with it. Ariz didn't, and good luck went to the Cubs. So one of those mini stories of the series, I think.
Or he says Nico's snow cone catch looked like Rhino Swanson was unconscious out there. I mean, it was defensively, it was a hell of a duo up the middle with Nico at second and Dansby at short. There's no doubt about it. Northside Baseball Podcast, live reaction, instant reaction. Cubs advance out of the wild card. They will take on the Brewers starting Saturday, game 1 in Milwaukee, NLDS, a best of 5 series. Still want to focus in on a couple of things from this game before we sort of pivot to that series against Milwaukee. I know you brought his name up earlier, Jason. And for those, by the way, I mentioned this yesterday because one of my buddies was watching. He was like, what are you doing when once in a while when the other guys were talking? And it looks like I'm like rolling my eyes when you guys are talking. I'm looking up at the TV. I got Yankees, Red Sox up on the TV right above me. 0-0 bottom two, but Stanton just smacked a double off the wall. Cubs beat the Padres, as we said, 3-1. You brought his name up earlier, Ian Happ, just to get off the schneid there. And I know in social media land, in Cubbies social media world, Jason, Ian Happ certainly takes his fair share of verbal beatings on X, anywhere on social media from Cubs fans.
I can't tell you how many people I've argued with on Reddit over Ian Happ.
Just to see him get off the schneid with that hit. I believe he was batting righty, wasn't he, with the double?
Yeah, right-handed
double, and we know the split's lefty to righty, so for him to do it right-handed is all the more merrier. Just thought it was a cool moment for him, and you have to imagine that was like, whether he showed it or not, it had to feel like a sigh of relief for Ian Happ, because he's aware of some of the chit-chat, right? He's aware of some of the dialogue, and he's aware of the numbers, and it wasn't pretty in the first two games of this series, and he went 1 for 3 today. He had an awesome sacrifice bunt as well, but to knock that double into left field had to, maybe he's able to carry that into this series against Milwaukee and kind of turn that into some good juju, because that was a good at-bat from Happ.
Yeah, it was a great at bat. He looked much more comfortable, and I think he did show it. You could see him on second base. He looked very relieved that he picked up a hit right there. I've never played Major League Baseball in the playoffs, but I play in my adult league, and I can tell you it feels bad when you don't contribute to wins, especially like in a playoff series or whatever. If the rest of your team feels like they're carrying you in my adult league, you kind of feel bad, and that's not my career. I teach history. That's what I get paid for. I pay to play adult league baseball, and I get upset when I can't, contribute on that aspect. I can't imagine how somebody like Ian Happ could feel if the team wins 3 games and basically doesn't do anything positive. He didn't make any big plays defensively that I can remember off the top of my head. He wasn't hitting. He struck out a bunch, and then you kind of like internally probably feel really bad. And you have the rest of tonight off. You have Friday off. You travel up to Milwaukee for Saturday, and you're letting that eat at you. So you can kind of roll that into the mental game, stuff that we can't really necessarily quantify in every little bit, but Ian Happ's going to go. He's going to feel like he contributed in some fashion after today, and he can rest easy and feel good as we head into one of the, in many ways, maybe the biggest series that the Cubs have played in since the NLCS in 2017. With Cubs Brewers here. This is really going to capture, especially Milwaukee. I know Milwaukee's going to be geared up for this. I think Cubs fans will be too. These two teams are really turning into rivals. So I think as many players who can feel right heading into that series, feel like they contributed, feel like they did some good stuff. That's only going to help a little bit as the Brewers have been sitting at home and took a week off. They're going to be a little bit more rested, but they're going to be a little bit less in practice, and we'll see where it goes from there. I'm really excited about it.
Absolutely. Another thing I wanted to hit on briefly, we had talked about on our podcast last week, maybe it was after game 1, I don't know, but we had brought up the Padres lineup, and it's very top heavy, Jason, and I think everyone's pretty well aware of that. Do you think it's a bit poetic? Like, to me, it helps write a big chapter of this series. Game 1, Jason, Tatis, Arraez, Machado, right? 1 through 3 in the lineup. Game 1, the Cubs won 3-1, and Tatis, Arraez, Machado went a combined 0 for 11. Game 2, the Padres win 3-0. The 1-2-3 lineup of that trio goes 4 for 11 with a 2-run homer by Machado, and the Padres won. Today, Cubs win 3-1 again, and that top 3 in the lineup go 0 for 11. So 0 for 11 in game 1, the Padres lose. 0 for 11 today, the Padres lose. 4 for 11 in game 2 with a 2-run homer by Machado, and the Padres win. It kind of just hammers home the point that we had brought up on a couple of occasions. It is a very top-heavy lineup for the Padres, and when they're not getting anything from Tatis, Arraez, Machado, especially I would say Tatis and Machado, it makes life very, very difficult for that San Diego lineup.
Yeah, it does, and I think this is kind of what a team who's threading a needle kind of looks like. They get very top heavy. One of the downsides for the kind of chaos that AJ Preller brings is that they're always kind of cycling through a bunch of prospects, and they find some guys like Jackson Merrill, who, first round draft pick, has been a very good major league player. They found like a guy like Jeremiah Estrada out there as well. But, one of the other things that comes with that is that you're churning through a lot of guys who would then cycle back through. And, they traded a very young prospect, but one of the very best in baseball in DeVries for Mason Miller. And what you get is a top heavy team. It was a top heavy bullpen, which is part of the reason why I think the bullpen usage was the way it was. There's kind of a delineator there between the top four guys and then the guys who look next. And, Dan Morgan had a nice outing today, but Dan Morgan just isn't nearly as good as the other ones, right? He's just not as good.
He's not Suarez. He's not Mason Miller.
David Morgan. Sorry, not Dan.
Yeah.
But no, he's not. He's got a 3.94 xFIP on the season. He walks guys. So he throws hard, but he's just not the same guy. And you could see that the Padres didn't trust him because the only time he showed up was at the very end of game 3. It was him. That was it. That was the only other true reliever that they used in the entire series other than those top 4. And they gave an inning to Michael King, who's been a reliever in the past. Hasn't been very good, but was probably supposed to start game 1 if they had taken this one through. So yeah, they really didn't use the rest of their bullpen, and being top heavy, you can see that in the lineup. You can see that in the bullpen.
Yep.
I think that's why the bullpen was tired by the end of the day, and why one of the benefits that the Cubs had going into today was the fresher bullpen. And I can't point to anything that 100% guarantees that if Suarez hadn't pitched yesterday, that he wouldn't have given up the home run, or that had Palencia pitched yesterday, that it wouldn't have gone as well. But there is some correlation there, whether it's complete causation. We're just never going to know, but it can never hurt. It can never hurt. So yeah, Padres top heavy lineup. And I think the Cubs found interesting ways to get around it. They always set up with a good inning for a lefty as well. No matter what they did, there was always going to be the inning, no matter who started, where you'd be facing O'Hearn, Cronenworth, and Sheets basically with a lefty. And they didn't really break that up. And you can say, this is the way that their lineup is. That's just the way that they're going to do it. But there were probably ways they could have broken that up a little bit more, and they chose not to. And that also, I think, played in a little bit to the Cubs bullpen options as well. Kind of that top heavy lineup that they have.
Yeah, the only way they really tried breaking up those 3 lefties near the bottom in that 6, 7, 8 hole was the last 2 days they pinch hit Iglesias in different spots. Yep. But it was the 3 lefties starting all those games in that 6, 7, 8 spot. Big Al said, checking in. Let's go Cubbies. Bring on the Brewers. What's up, Jason and Mitch? Big Al. Awesome series win. Brewers up next. Big Al also said Dansby's defense was so elite this series. I don't know if you just tuned in or not. Obviously, we talked about that earlier, like Dansby's glove, especially in this game too, but throughout the series, just remarkable. You could say like vintage Dansby Swanson with the glove.
Yeah.
It was tremendous. Cubs win. Are you ready to turn the page? I'm ready to turn the page.
Yeah, let's turn the page. Listen, love the Padres, but I'm looking forward now. Padres are in the rearview mirror. Good season for San Diego. Good battles. Had a lot of fun. Yep. My fiance is she's got family who are big Padres fans. So sorry guys that it's not working so well for you, but I got Milwaukee on the mind.
Yeah. So the Cubs Brewers game 1 will be Saturday. Time is TBD. It depends on who wins between Boston and New York, which I think is kind of weird because whoever wins between Boston and New York is going to be in Toronto. So it's not like, well, if one team wins the games on the East Coast, it could be Central Standard Time. It's in Toronto regardless, but time is TBD for game 1 between the Cubs and the Brewers. I mentioned to you off air real quick. Big Al said, Jason, I live in San Diego. I got these fans all in my ear this whole series. And you came out on top there, Big Al, being a Cubs fan. So as we turn the page, Jason, I mentioned to you off the air right before we went live. I said, well, game 1 on Saturday, it's going to be Freddie Peralta, who is starting for the Cubs. And you brought up a very interesting name that makes sense because we know it's not going to be Boyd, right? Boyd was warming up in this one in case they needed to bring him in the 9th. And he went on Tuesday, so that'd be short rest. It's not going to be Shota. It's not going to be Tyon. Kate Horton's still out, so you believe it might be...
I think it's between Assad or Ray. And I don't think either guy's probably going very long. I would expect whoever starts on Monday is basically going to be on the Yu Darvish, Dylan Cease
On
plan. Where if they
Saturday,
come,
yeah.
yeah, it's Saturday. If they come out of if they go more than 3 innings, I think we should all be shocked. Because they have tomorrow off. So tomorrow's a rest day for the bullpen. Andrew Kittredge is probably the only guy that maybe you want to try to save off of Saturday, but they also are off on Sunday, so they don't play again until Monday. So I think everybody's kind of available, and you kind of play it a little bit differently. You're going to be a little bit more aggressive with the bullpen with the off days as opposed to the 3-game set. Those 3-game sets, that's when the Colin Ray designated loser innings really matter. And Saturday, you kind of just I think you kind of got to look at it and you say, all right, I got 3 innings for whoever I have to start. Who do I feel most comfortable with? Is it Colin Ray, who's played on the Brewers and might have an inside feeling to them? Is it Javier Assad because you just trust him a little bit more? And he was on the Brewers last year. Do you feel like they might have an advantage against him? So I think you toss it up between one of those 2 guys, and then you kind of look at the bullpen and you say, all right, how can I get 5 innings, 5 to 6 innings out of Palencia, Keller, Thielbar, Pomeranz, right? How do I get those guys to go 5 innings? Where's my 5 innings, 6 innings to kind of finish up that game there? And you'll probably see a little bit of the underbelly, but if you get an inning out of Palencia, and he's proven that he can go a little bit more. So if you get an inning out of Palencia, an inning out of Keller, an inning out of Thielbar, an inning out of Pomeranz, and an inning out of Kittredge, that's 5 innings right there, right? So that's kind of how it sets up. I think somebody goes 3, and that's your 5, and then you've got one other inning that probably gets broken up between those guys, where you have somebody going a little bit longer, somebody a little bit shorter. That's probably what the plan is Saturday, is my guess.
Yeah, and
you have
certainly. No, I'm with you. I'm in lockstep with you.
Do you have a favorite between Ray or Assad? Which one?
Honestly, oh man, that's tough. There's that angle where it's like, man, Colin Ray against his former team, and I don't know if you remember this. He started 27 games for the Brewers last year when their rotation was all banged up with injuries, and then they left him off the postseason roster entirely against the Mets. So there'd be a little bit of juice if you start the Cascade, Iowa native against his former team in game 1. But I'm not. I would say this: I'm not gonna stick my neck out in either way and be like it has to be Assad or it has to be Colin Ray. Whatever way they go, I'd be fine with it, because obviously they don't have too many options. But I don't want to get too far out in front of this, Jason. In a world though where if the Cubs were to win game 1 and then you have that off day Sunday, and then you're resetting your rotation with Boyd likely on Monday in game 2, if you can get game 1 on Saturday, you are putting yourself in a very, very advantageous spot if you're the Cubs. Because if you look over at the Brewers side of things, we know fastball Freddie's going game 1. We also know Pat Murphy just 2 weeks ago said Mizorowski will be coming out of the bullpen. He said if there was a thought of go ahead, here's the ball for game 3, and he's talking about Mizorowski, the direct quote was, that's not what we're going to do. And so Mizorowski is going to come out of the bullpen. Brandon Woodruff, it's a mystery right now. I think it would likely lean towards him not being available for this series, just based off all the reporting and the updates or lack thereof that we've had. They have Quinn Priester, and I don't know how many Quinn Priester starts you've watched this year, but it seems like every start for Quinn Priester, the Brewers win. And he's
annoying.
Yeah, he had a pretty damn good season. It seems like every time he's on the bump every 5th day, the Brewers win. And he's pieced together some pretty strong outings throughout the year. My point is, though, the Cubs are going to be scattering a little bit on Saturday in game 1, just because they're coming off a 3-game series, exhausted a lot of arms. And like you said, it's probably going to be Assad, Ray for game 1 against Freddie Peralta. But if you steal that game and then you get that off day, sandwiched between game 1 and game 2 on Monday, then you're resetting your rotation. Game 1 is huge for the Cubs if they're able to take it. If not, you kind of just chalk it up to, all right, well, we're getting our reset on Monday in game 2, and we know we have to have that one, but we got Boyd out there in all likelihood. And Cade Horton's status TBD, but I believe the report was if he's even available for the NLDS, it'd be later on in the series for the Cubs. So the reason I'm not bringing up Cade Horton is because in all likelihood not going to factor into this series. But yeah, Saturday's game 1. if the Cubs get it, it would be massive, because then the Brewers all of a sudden are like, they're resetting their rotation. We're on our number 2. Mizorowski's out of the bullpen, and we don't know if we've got Big Woo, Brandon Woodruff, available at all this series. I also feel like this might be like kind of a cop out to say, Jason, does this not feel like a series that might just go to that 5th game? Like Cubs, Brewers, they seem kind of evenly matched.
Yeah.
It feels like a series. Like, I would be shocked if either the Cubs or Brewers swept this thing. I don't see that happening, right? Are you in lockstep with that?
No sweeps. I think we're going to see a lot of, if you liked the Padres series and how it worked, I think you're probably looking at a replay of that with the Brewers. They're different animals in the sense that, the kind of players that they have, I wouldn't say that the roster construction is exactly the same, but, the Brewers lineup probably isn't like overly terrifying on paper. They're more terrifying in practice than they are like data wise. You kind of look at their lineup and you're like, all right. So if you kind of get away with Yelich doesn't beat you, you're probably feeling pretty good about like, that's the guy that you want to ensure doesn't beat you. But then, Bryce Terang is there and he's obnoxious, and Isaac Collins,
Sal Frelick, they've got all
Sal
these
Frelick. Guys. Yeah, they have a bunch of these like really annoying guys in the lineup, and I mean that in a good way. Durbin,
yes, it's a compliment. We're giving him a compliment.
I don't know if you remember on our very first podcast, I brought up Caleb Durbin as a name that I knew was going to be an obnoxious Brewer. And if you go all the way back to our first one,
obnoxious.
He's like the prototypical Brewers player. He was an overage rookie. They got him in the trade with the Yankees that sent Devin Williams to New York. And they get Caleb Durbin back, this like short overager at AAA who had a lot of contact, but not really great exit velocity data. And he just, the second that he went to Milwaukee, you just went, yeah, he's going to be annoying for the next 6 years. Like this guy's going to be obnoxious. And you know what? He's an obnoxious hitter. He does all the annoying things that you would expect Caleb Durbins of the world to do. Those guys are going to be a little annoying, but I think we're going to be looking at another grinded out series of good pitching, lots of bullpen, not a lot of runs. And that's, I know that the initial reaction is always kind of to be like, well, to blame the Cubs on it, but I don't think it's always the Cubs. Sometimes you tip your hat to some really good pitching. And, if the Cubs come out and they score 1 run against Freddie Peralta in the first game of the series, there's probably a pretty good chance that Freddie Peralta, with his 2.70 ERA and 3.85 xFIP, just pitched really well. Like sometimes that just happens. Sometimes guys just pitch really well. So we'll see how it goes on that end. But I do think if you like the Cubs-Padres series, I think we got 5 more really tight, close games. This feels like a series that finishes in game 4 at the very earliest, but probably feels like a game 5. Cubs were 4-3 against the Brewers in the regular season. And most of those games didn't feel like there was a lot between the two teams, even if, one team won a little bit more handily than the other here or there. It did feel like those two teams were pretty close, and the atmospheres between the two stadiums are just going to be absolutely electric.
Do you care at all about history, like how Colin Ray has faced or how he's done against these Brewers hitters that are in the lineup, and same with Javier Assad? Because there is I will say this, Jason, whether you do or don't, it's a similar sample size. Both are right around 40 at bats, which isn't a whole lot. Like total, like all these guys in the Brewers lineup, it's about 40 for Assad and about 40 for Colin Ray. But there is if you just look at the slash line, there's a pretty big difference.
I would guess that Assad looks better than Colin Ray.
I just read you the slash line. Is that okay?
Yeah.
It's not the end all be all. So Javier Assad in his career against Brewers that are on this team, the slash line is 139, 311, 222. And I did not misread that. The OBP 311, the slugging is 222. And Colin Ray's, Jason, is the slash line against the Brewers, 341, 426, 439. So again, both are around the same amount of at-bats that they have faced this Brewers lineup or the hitters involved in it. It's still a relatively small sample size of around 40 at-bats. But if you do want to take it with more than a grain of salt, Javier Assad has fared far better than Colin Ray has.
I would guess, and this is just me spitballing and guessing, I wonder how many of those games came before Colin Ray really came back from Korea.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because he's kind of had a weird career where he was, in the major leagues, then he was with the Brewers. So it wasn't like he was really able to
Correct.
pick up a lot of plate appearances when he was with the Brewers, and he only has one start against the Brewers this year with the Cubs. So I would guess that a decent amount of those plate appearances probably came at other times, because I'm looking at this. Colin Ray, actually I take it back. Colin Ray did pitch against Milwaukee twice this year. He went 5 2/3, struck out 3, walked 5 in a game on August 20th, and then also pitched in Milwaukee on July 29th. And he went 4 innings, gave up 4 earned runs, struck out 2. So yeah, he wasn't particularly great against the Milwaukee Brewers this year. However, both of those starts were in that super hot Milwaukee Brewers run as well. So maybe that's a little bit of it too. I don't really care between the two. I think I really don't. Whoever. I kind of defer to counsel on that. I'm sure they've got.
We know it's probably gonna be 3 innings max, right? Wouldn't you assume like max?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
I don't think.
Just get us
I don't think
that.
a single. Yeah, I don't think a single. If everything's working perfect, they go 3 innings, they get 9 outs, they don't face a hitter twice. That's probably like your dream world scenario. Obviously, probably not going to go 3 for 3, 9 for 9. In that sense, 3 innings for 3 innings, 9 for 9 hitters. So there's probably going to be a couple guys, that you face twice, but I think the goal would be to limit their exposure the most you can, and then get into your bullpen as much as humanly possible. Because I think that's probably where the Cubs are feeling the most comfortable with.
Yeah. One thing that is not a small sample size, Freddie Peralta, career against the Cubs, 178 at bats. Cubs hitters batting 157. Off Freddie Peralta. And I just want to pick out a couple, if you don't mind, Jason. Again, small sample sizes on both of these. PCA's 5 for 11 in his career with a home run against Freddie Peralta. Michael Busch is 2 for 16, but the 2 hits are both home runs. So those are a couple. And then the largest sample size, if you wanted to look at it, there's 2 of them. And obviously no one on the Cubs is hitting Freddie Peralta real well. Kyle Tucker's also 5 for 11, but the largest sample sizes are Seiya Suzuki, who's 3 for 23 with 12 strikeouts. And Ian Happ is 2 for 32 with 14 strikeouts, but he does have 6 walks. So the Cubs are very familiar with Freddie Peralta. Freddie Peralta is very familiar with the Cubs. So it sets up a pretty intriguing Game 1 matchup, especially considering who the Cubs could roll out there. I think finish up with a couple of points. Who's your MVP of the wild card series? I'll let you take the floor too. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll give it to Dansby Swanson. I think defensively, what he did was huge. Offensively, he came through with some big bats here or there, picked up some big hits, looked good at the plate. But defensively, that was who really shined for us. Like I said, he created his own variants. I'm going to give an honorable mention though to Colin Ray yesterday. And I know that. Yeah, designated loser. I keep talking about that, but that saved the Cubs big today. Because could you imagine if Brad Keller was struggling and you had to go to somebody other than Andrew Kittredge, if you had to go to somebody else who had been already tired, if some of these guys had already been exhausted prior to this, those innings that Colin Ray took yesterday that kept the game at 3 and forced the Padres to keep using their bullpen. Those are those under the radar stories that we don't talk about. So, he's not the MVP of the series. He threw only in games that we were losing by 3 runs, but keeping that game close, letting Rogers and Soroka follow you. That's those kind of underrated stories for how you win a series, right? Dansby Swanson's going to get the love because he looked great defensively, but it was Colin Ray who made a really big contribution to the team, and I don't want to miss him when we talk Flowers and plaudits right now. So Dansby Swanson gets my vote. Colin Ray is my under the radar hero of the series. You need performances from Colin Ray if you're going to win in the playoffs. You got to find those innings, and the Cubs found them in the series against the Padres. If they continue to find those innings, if they can have a game where somebody like Matt Shaw or has a really good offensive game, or if he's just great defensively. If he can give you kind of those margin places, that's where you win. Carson Kelly hitting a home run on his first pitch, fastball up. That's how you win games. So you find those at bats and those innings from your non-stars, and that's how you can win playoff series. So credit to Colin Ray, but Swanson's my vote. I'm not sure if you have a different vote or anybody else that you think.
Oh yeah, I'm going to play
honorable.
contrarian. Yeah, I'll play.
Hell
contrarian.
Yeah, you are. Play contrarian.
Just because you said Dansby, and it's what I would have gone with. So my contrarian answer is Seiya Suzuki.
Suzuki. Yeah, he was great too.
Can I say why too? Extra base hit in each of the 3 games, Jason.
Yeah.
In game 1, Cubs were down 1-0 in the 5th inning, and I'll admit I started sneaking in my mind like, oh my gosh, is the offense just going to completely roll over? And Seiya Suzuki, solo shot, followed up by a solo shot by Carson Kelly. But I'm going to give it to Seiya Suzuki because I thought his at-bats were really, really good in this series. Extra base hit in each of the 3 games. And down 1-0 game 1, 5th inning, some bad thoughts can start to creep into your mind if you're a Cubs fan. And he goes yard on a solo shot on a day where the wind was certainly not blowing out by any stretch of the imagination. It was blowing in, and he went to left center on a solo shot. Just because I would have gone with Dansby just like you did.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Seiya Suzuki.
I like the Seiya Suzuki answer. That he's one of those players that we probably won't. We probably should talk about more about what he did, having the extra base hits, the home run, and it's Carson Kelly who hit the game-winning home run. It's Dansby Swanson who made the great plays defensively. Probably one of the other underrated aspects that Suzuki played the outfield the entire time, and we've seen Seiya Suzuki not always be able to miss a boneheaded play in the outfield. We didn't get any of those from him. He didn't make any like obvious bad plays in the field. I think his defense gets overshadowed from those boneheaded plays for the overall picture sometimes, but he didn't make any of those. He hit really well. He looked good at the plate. So yeah, I think making an argument on Suzuki, if you're not going to go Swanson, Suzuki again is one of those guys that we probably should talk more about what he did.
Any other final thoughts? Cubs Brewers, Cubs Padres as we put a bow on the show here.
I'm really excited about this. This is our 3rd live reaction video. We'll do at least 3 more. I'm already quickly learning that the wins are a hell of a lot more fun than the losses. So if we can just keep doing this, I like celebrating the dubs than trying to find all the complaints and arguments and bad feels on the losses. It makes it a tough 45 minutes. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of this playoffs. I know, I don't know about you, but I will have the Aramis Ramirez walk-off home run against the Milwaukee Brewers. It's a deep drive, left center. right.
Len Casper
Len Casper. That's going to be absolutely on repeat for 48 hours to get me hyped up for the series because I still remember where I was when he hit it. I was on the floor working at Circuit City, and that's my 9/11 of baseball in a good sense. That you always remember where you were at. I will never forget where I was at on that one. Cannot wait for the series, and we'll be watching that on replay.
I should have brought this up before the final point. I have one more question for you, if you don't mind. And Ori says, posting the W is way more fun. Thank you, gentlemen. Ori, thanks for tuning in. So game 1 Saturday, off day Sunday. Game 2 Monday, off day Tuesday. Game 3 Wednesday, game 4 Thursday, off day Friday, game 5 would be on a Saturday. All these off days sprinkled in those first 3 games. Does that favor either side, do you think, or not really?
Probably has to favor the Cubs a little bit.
That's what I would think. That's what I would think.
They're coming off the 3-game set where you play 3 in 3 days. Getting an off day between each game is
the first 3. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's going to really negate, I think, some of the well-restedness that the Brewers are going to have. And it's also going to listen. I don't want to like kind of dump on the Brewers here, but I will say that it probably also is going to make it a little bit harder to get into gear. The Cubs have already played 3 games. They're going to play their 4th on Saturday at the same time the Brewers are playing their first game. And and the Brewers have been off for a week. They've been sitting at home. They've been relaxing. That's good for the arm. That's good for the legs. But sometimes it's not good for the repetition. It's not good for the schedule of things. You kind of get yourself a little bit off schedule when you're not in the play a game mode. The way that they've been doing life over the past week is very different from the way that they've been doing life in September. In August, since the All-Star break, where the Brewers didn't have a lot of off days. There was a lot made about the Cubs 5-game set and how few off days that the Brewers had in between there. So I don't think that that's going to be a reason why the reason why the Cubs win or the reason why the Brewers don't win. If it ends up going that way, but I can only believe that gives the Cubs just a little bit of an added benefit from coming from playing 3 games.
Agreed. Cubs take care of the Padres 3-1 in a winner-take-all, survive-in-advance format here in Game 3 of the Wild Card. Game 1 against the Brewers, NLDS will be Saturday. I'm assuming we'll be live after these games. We'll have to coordinate that with Brock, but Game 1 Saturday and then Game 2 Monday. So just stay tuned for that. Big Al.
I like the live reactions. These are fun.
Yeah. Thanks doing
Big
this,
Al,
guys.
for being there.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Buckle up. Best of 5 against Milwaukee starts Saturday. On this night, the Cubs take care of the Padres, eliminate them, and keep on moving and grooving forward with a final score of 3-1. He is Jason Ross. I am Mitch Widmeyer. This has been the Northside Baseball Podcast.